than it seems.
As we draw breath from the news that this evening the names, date of birth, national insurance number and bank account details of 25 million people, 15.5 million children among them, are somewhere out there, this looks very much like the disaster experts have been warning was just waiting to happen. In his statement to the House, Alistair Darling used the phrase password protected. So we asked Customs and Revenue to explain, was the data encrypted or scrambled in any way? Just normal password protected, a spokesman said. So does that mean no encryption, we asked. That's correct, he said.
Password protected usually means that very simple security has been applied to the data in the same way that you might log onto your PC at home or at work, perhaps using something like the name of a friend or a family member. Anyone can go online and buy password programs that will try literally millions and millions of combinations of dictionary words, names and so on. So this really is not good security at all.
As we were trying to find out what password protected really meant, the Treasury line was it didn't want to say too much about the level of encryption on the disk for fear of aiding criminals. You can understand why they said that. There are already suggestions of a black market for this material. Bank account numbers can sell for as much as $400.
Now that there's been so much media attention on this event, you can be sure that the criminals are looking for this data just as hard as the authorities are. And all it takes, not to sound like an alarmist, but is one disgruntled employee of a delivery service to find the data and turn it over to criminals who will pay the person for it.
Robert Schifrin became famous in the early 1980s as the first person in the world to be tried by a jury in connection with computer hacking. He's now a security consultant. He told us that the disk could have been stolen to order.
It's very surprising that they haven't encrypted this. Normally, if you send confidential information like this between two places, either you do it over the internet or some sort of secure government network. If you are going to stick disks in the post or send disks by courier, then obviously you tick the box that says, do you want to encrypt this data? It's normally as easy as that. Then you could make an announcement in the Commons saying, yes, we've lost the disk, but it's encrypted, so it doesn't really matter.
These latest revelations come after a string of government data protection blunders. In April this year, the public was mistakenly allowed access to junior doctors' confidential details on the website they'd been using to apply for jobs. In September, a courier firm working for HM Revenue and Customs lost a CD containing the personal data of 15,000 Standard Life customers. Then in October, a Revenue and Customs laptop containing personal details of high-value ISA accounts was stolen from a staff car. Ministers also revealed that a further 41 laptops had been stolen from HMRC in the previous 12 months.
Given that the government has ignored the most basic security protections in how this data was sent, I think there's a clear case that they may well have broken the Data Protection Act, and I hope that the Information Commissioner's Office will be opening an investigation tomorrow, if indeed they haven't already.
So just how exposed are the families whose data is now out there? Banks say they'll be looking for any sign of unusual activity on accounts.
They'll have to shut down accounts if there's evidence of criminal activity that can be attributed to this heist. Now that the heist has been exposed, though, the criminals are likely to lay low and not conduct any fraud. They'll probably sell the lots of the bank numbers, assuming they get them, and wait a couple of months so they can catch the banks off guard.
At the end of the day, it's organised crimes doing the identity theft. If they can get hold of every single record of somebody on child benefit and 25 million records, someone out there wants it. They know the potential, they know what they could do with it, and maybe they're going to try and get hold of it. There's probably inquiries going on as we speak in the underworld to see if they know where these CDs are.
The government seems to be saying that once these CDs turn up, we can all rest easy. But that ignores the fact that whoever gains access to this data might copy it and sell it on. None of this will persuade the public they can trust the government, as it stores more and more of our information on centralised databases and tries to persuade all of us to communicate with it electronically.
Susan Watts. Well, just before we came on air, I was joined by Professor Ross Anderson, a leading expert in security engineering at Cambridge University Computer Laboratory, Philip Hammond, the Shadow Treasury spokesman, and Jane Kennedy, the Financial Secretary to the Treasury. I started by asking her if the government guarantees to refund money to anyone who might lose out as a result of this security breach?
Well, the Chancellor made clear that nobody will lose as a result of any fraud arising out of this breakdown, if you want to call it that.
You don't know that.
But, well, what we are doing is working very hard to not only recover the discs themselves, but also to monitor the accounts and other...
Absolutely. But if somebody gets hold of these discs
Yes.
and uses them to access somebody's account and takes money out of it, will the government refund that money?
All I can tell you right at this moment is that the banking system has a system in place that will make sure that nobody is
It wasn't the banks who made the mistake.
Absolutely, and I'm not implying in any way that that is the case. What I would say to you is that as a result of this, there will be a number of inquiries after which we will be able to work out where liability lies.
Inquiries don't pay bills.
No, and the public can be reassured that, at least on this point, no individual member of the public will lose out financially as a result of this.
And that's because the guarantee is given by the government, or you expect the banks to give it?
No, in the first instance, the banks have made that guarantee, as would apply in any instance.
Absolutely, although in this case, of course, the banks didn't make the mistake,
No,
so
absolutely.
if they find themselves out of pocket, you will reimburse them.
And that is a discussion that we will have to have.
Can you tell us why it was that this data wasn't encrypted?
We're looking into all of the detail of that, and what happened was a clear breach of what is laid down in terms of the rules. So
The rules
we
say
know
the
that
data should have been encrypted, do they?
For this particular database, it should not have been handled in the way that it was,
Absolutely.
which
Do
is
the
why
rules say
originally
the data should have been encrypted?
the original offer of the data of 12 anonymised individual claims that was offered to the NAO originally was dealt with in the normal way for that data and was handled properly in the proper way.
So
Now,
the rules
since-
do not say that the data should have been encrypted.
Since this incident has occurred, we have made sure that those sorts of rules are in place.
Why was it that it took 6 days for the Chancellor to get around to telling the banks?
Because Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs had a number of procedures in place. Not only were they investigating to see if the discs could be located, but they had put in place their own inquiry. And at that stage, we were advised on the Monday that there was some evidence to demonstrate that the discs could be recovered.
So you nonetheless took the decision off your own bat not to warn the banks.
We took advice
Who
as soon as we believed that the risk of the discs not being recovered was increasing. We took advice from the Information Commissioner, who advised us as we went forward that we must make every effort to make sure that remedial measures, in other words, measures to look after the public and protect the public, were in place before we made a public statement.